And it takes if you're new, if you're in your first couple of years of sobriety and you don't think it's working, let me tell you, I was 3 years into sobriety and I thought I should just live alone. They hate me. And these two have never seen me drunk. Neither has my granddaughter, but my oldest grandson has. And the book says we have a long road of reconstruction ahead of us, a long period of reconstruction. And when you get to where somebody is crying because they're leaving you and they want to be with you, the road doesn't seem that long. But if you're in it, let me tell you, I know exactly how it feels. And get a good sponsor that you can one-on-one talk. I can many times my sponsor and I would go out for coffee, and it was, she's never going to forgive me. They're never going to let it go. I should leave. This is never going to, and you just stay the course, stay the course, stay the course. This program, we're getting in now into the steps where life starts to have some promise for you. So if some of you guys, I know this is your first time writing, I hope you're taking this seriously. I hope you're finding writing blocks at home, quiet 2-hour blocks where you can sit and pray before and ask God to guide that pencil in writing. And in 3 weeks, so we've been on the inventory for 3 weeks, and we're going to get to our set-aside prayer. I know we haven't opened yet. But you should be pretty well armed with some facts about yourself if you're doing these periods of writing, and you have a sponsor that maybe you're bouncing off or showing. I sat with a sponsee this morning, and we just looked at his turnarounds on his resentment inventory. That's where he's at. And then we started writing fear. And he said, what about my resentment? Am I done with my resentment? I said, we got enough, but keep going if you want to put more on the list. But my point is I want to get him into this 5th step, which we're going to do tonight. God willing, we're going to do 5, 6, and 7 tonight. I'm going to do it a little bit different than what I've done the years past. But let's, everybody got their set-aside prayer? Yep. Let's take out our set-aside. We'll try to quiet our hearts. Let the things of the day, all of our worries, all of our problems, our dirty dishes will still be there. Don't worry, they'll be there. And ask God to come join us tonight. Prayer.
God, please set aside everything I think I know about you, everything I think I know about myself, everything I think I know about others, and everything I think I know about my own recovery. For a new experience with myself, a new experience with others, a new experience with my own recovery, and especially a new experience with you.
All right. Beautiful. Tonight we're going to get a word. All these prayers we've been doing, we got a resentment prayer, we got a fear prayer, we got 3 sex prayers, kind of 2 sex prayers, 3 sex prayers last week. Tonight we're going to get a prayer, and it's going to have a word that none of our prayers have had in it. So if we get going, if we get to that 7th step. On our syllabus, it says that next week we're going to do 6 and 7, and we're going to do them out of the 12 and 12. But I met with a fellow, anyway, he describes 6 and 7. I'm going to try to do 6 and 7 the way he says to do it tonight. And so that means next week we're not going to use the 12 and 12. We're not going to use it. So we're going to go, and I'll explain maybe why. What he said to me changed my whole thinking of 6 and 7. So hopefully we'll get to that tonight. But has anybody been working on this? Any questions on your sex inventory? Luke called and asked me. I got to home and I thought about this 4 types of love. We just briefly touched on these 4 types of love. Brotherly, which is the love we have for each other in here. It's our fellowship love. It's certainly the love for my brothers and sisters. Eros, which is my romantic love, which is this inventory probably. The love certainly for my wife. Unconditional love. And agape love. Remember what agape love is? Agape comes from a Greek word meaning last supper. It is to give up your life for another. How about to give up your life for somebody who's persecuting you? Give up a life for someone you don't care for, or someone, better yet, give up your life for someone who hates you. Could you love someone so much that you would give up your life even though they hate you? How about that? And that's certainly what happened if you're a follower of Christ. That certainly is what happened in that case. And then I got home and I said, these all have conditions on them. And I thought, when I got home, that's not true. These are all unconditional love. But what these 3 have, unconditional love, eros love, and brotherly love, that agape doesn't have, is I have the ability to end the relationship. My wife has unconditional love for me. But there are certain things that will end the marriage. But it doesn't mean she stops that unconditional love for me. Fair enough. Brotherly love. I have unconditional love for my children. I don't know if there's anything they could do that could end the relationship. I have unconditional love for my siblings. But there's two siblings I don't have a relationship with. It's very surfacey. It's not a relationship. Nor do I want a relationship because of the toxicity of it. Fair enough? But I love them. So I thought last week I said the love is conditional. The love's not conditional, but certainly the relationship is. But in this one here, there's no getting out of God's love for you. There's nothing I can do that God will love me more, and there's nothing I can do that God will love me less. God is just love. And that's the experience that we're going to have when we come into the fifth step. Has anybody got a fifth step scheduled with a sponsor? Anybody thinking of that far ahead?
I've done it.
You've done it. When did you do it?
Did it last Saturday.
Wonderful. We'll read and hopefully you'll share some of the experiences. Anybody here never done a fifth step? Wonderful. I hope you get it on the schedule. Has anybody here, raise your hand if you've never heard of fifth step. Never heard of fifth step. Okay, so lots of people here have heard of fifth step. You know what the 12 and 12 says? I saw a 12 and 12. Go to page 67, I think.
In the big book or?
Nope, the 12 and 12. So the 12 and 12, everybody know what the 12 and 12? I assume everybody else knows what the 12 and 12, but there's probably somebody who doesn't know what the 12 and 12 is. The guys are about 20 years sober. So they've got a whole new, so you have a whole new, they know a lot more, right? On page 164 in our big book, you know what it says? We know very little. More will be revealed. This is the more they were being revealed. See, it's not page 67. Geez, that was really going to be something, wasn't it? It's page. It must be the book.
That was my trick tonight.
All right. Yeah. So here's another 20 years sober.
What page?
On page 57. Last full paragraph. It says, when we reach the AA, this is how to be an AA member in good standing, right? What's the only requirement for membership? It's not the only requirement to get sober. Fair enough? The only requirement is a desire to stop drinking. It is not the requirement to get sober in AA is do the steps. And this is what it says here on the fifth step. It says, when we reached AA for the first time in our lives, stood among people who seemed to understand. The sense of belonging was tremendously exciting. We thought the isolation problem had been solved. Go to meetings, I get the fellowship, these people know what they're talking about. My gosh, I'm home. I think everybody who comes to AA for the first time goes, man, they get it here, right? I'm at home. Guess what? Not enough. We soon discovered that while we weren't alone anymore in a social sense, we still suffered many of the old pangs of anxious apartness. Isn't that beautiful? Anxious apartness. That is alcoholism. That's the definition of alcoholism. Until we had talked with complete candor of our conflicts, fifth step, and had listened to another's. Until we have talked with complete candor of our conflicts and had listened to someone else do the same thing, we still didn't belong. Guess what? If you haven't heard of fifth step, you're probably not a member of AA yet. Right? You probably have a desire to stop drinking and you're staying in. And if you're a hard drinker, it'll probably work. But if you're a real alcoholic, you'll probably drink again. And that, I drank many, many times. I did my fifth step. A lot of guys never heard of fifth step. And listen in meetings when they do that. When we read out of the 12 and 12, or we read this, when people start to share, very few people will share about the fifth steps they've heard. Everybody's very anxious to talk about the fifth step they did and the results. But in reality, when I work with sponsees, the really exciting phone calls are when sponsees start calling me after they heard a fifth step. And they start going, oh man, here's what happened. Boy, God took over this meeting. I can't believe it. Now, we've already talked probably before. Hey, Paul, I'm here in my first fifth step. Well, Paul's coming in. He's never done a fifth step. What do you think? And I give him little tips and say, remember when you did your fifth step? Remember I had the chair there, or we lit a candle, or we did something, and we asked God, make sure you pray before with a guy. Have him do the prayer. When they all these fun things that have worked for me, my experience. And then the phone call after is nothing short of, and they don't tell me any details, of course. It's sacred what's talked about in the fifth step, but what they tell me is what's happening with them. So read and we'll see. Remember, these guys are 2.5, 3 years sober. They do not have the word sponsor yet. So he's going to give us an idea of who should hear our fifth step. We get kind of vague ideas or vague advice, but we'll try to tap into it. Okay, ready, Matt? We're on page 72. Into what? Into thinking. The chapter into feeling. Let's talk about our feelings. My sponsor had me do that, by the way, when I first met him. He said, I want you to go home tonight, because our first meeting, all I talked about was how I felt. He said, I want you to go home. I'd been in AA for 33 years. I had a book that was all worn out. He said, I want you to go home tonight and read the chapter into feeling and call me. I said, okay. I went home and I go, must be in the stories. Where is this feeling? So the next time I saw him, I said, I don't get what yet. And he said, because I don't care what you're feeling. Okay, AA is not for people who need it, and it's not for people who want it. It's for people who do it. And that's why this chapter is into action. All right, the person I was will drink again. He always drinks again. We need to be reborn. That's what the promise of the book is. Go ahead, Matt.
Having made our personal inventory, what shall we do about it? We have been trying to get a new attitude, a new relationship with our Creator, and to discover the obstacles in our path.
So you could underline that entire sentence. That is the goal of the steps. We have been trying to get I'm trying to get a new attitude towards the world, a new reaction to life, a new relationship with our Creator, capital C, and to discover the obstacles in our path. Chuck Chamberlain said, uncover, discover, and discard those things which are in my way. Of what? Not the way of drinking or staying sober, but are in the way of God. What is it that is blocking me from God?
We have admitted certain defects. We have ascertained in a rough way what the trouble is. We have put our finger on the weak items in our personal inventory. Now these are about to be cast out. This requires action on our part, which, when completed, will mean that we have admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our defects.
So the exact nature of our defects is the turnarounds, my part. What are my mistakes?
This brings us to the fifth step in the program of recovery mentioned in the preceding chapter. This is perhaps difficult, especially discussing our defects with another person. We think we have done well enough in admitting these things to ourselves.
Did you catch the first two words of that sentence? We think. This program up to this point has said stop thinking and start doing. My mind is not a good place to go. So when you work with guys, or if you're yourself, you can relate to this. When the fifth step comes in, I immediately start negotiating in my head. Well, I don't really have to tell them this. I don't have to tell them this thing. I don't want to talk about that. I'll give them this, this, and this. Or I really don't have to do a fifth step. I go to confession. I'm Catholic. I'll do my fifth step with a priest in 8 minutes, and not even that long in a confessional. And this book is not going to let me off the hook that quick.
There is no doubt. There is doubt about that. In actual practice, we usually find a solitary self-appraisal insufficient. Many of us thought it necessary to go much further. We would be more reconciled to discussing ourselves with another person when we see good reasons why we should do so. The best reason first: if we skip this vital step, we may not overcome drinking.
So that's the second time he said that. Remember, he told us in our sex inventory, if we are not sorry for this, we will drink again. Now he's telling me if I don't go further in the fifth step, I'll probably drink again. He's given us a little bit of his experience in the 12 and 12. He's given us 20 years of experience. Not only does it say if I don't discuss this, if I don't hear somebody else, now I'm in big trouble.
Time after time, newcomers have tried to keep to themselves certain facts about their lives. Trying to avoid this humbling experience, they have turned to easier methods.
What are easier methods? No, here's some. No, not drinking. Easier methods. Going to meetings. Hanging out with fellowship. Watching Netflix at home. I just wrote some of my favorite easier methods than doing the steps. Food. Here's my favorite. Exercise. I ran 6 marathons. That was an easier method than sitting down with Paul telling him my sex inventory. That's easier. If you ask me, running 6 marathons, much easier. More relationships, a better job, start a business. 12-step workshops are good. I don't do steps in 12-step meetings. You ever do a step in a 12-step meeting? No, we talk about it. Guys who have done them give us their experience, so maybe I'll do them. Okay, what happens?
Almost invariably, they got drunk. Having persevered with the rest of the program, they wondered why they failed. We think the reason is that they never completed their house cleaning. They took inventory all right, but hung on to some of the worst items in stock. They only thought they had lost their egoism and fear. They only thought they had humbled themselves. But they had not learned enough of humility, fearlessness, and honesty in the sense we find it necessary until they told someone else all their life story.
Everything.
More than most people, the alcoholic leads a double life.
See if this doesn't sound like page 62.
He is very much the actor. To the outer world, he presents his stage character. This is the one he likes his fellows to see. He wants to enjoy a certain reputation, but knows in his heart he doesn't deserve it.
We know how it feels to be a hypocrite, huh? Is there anything more painful than this thought would run through my mind if you knew who I really was? Every time I get an accolade, every time somebody would say something nice to me, if you knew who I really was, if you knew what really was going on in here, you wouldn't even let me near you. Yeah, and that's what I think, because it's all in here, right? As soon as I bring it out, it's like, hey, it doesn't sound as bad as it, let me tell you, let me reword it, or I start to exaggerate. But that's what goes through my mind is, if you really knew who I was. That's why this step is so beautiful. Because all of a sudden you go, he knows, and he says, I'll see you tomorrow. It's like, okay. Yeah.
The inconsistency is made worse by the things he does on his sprees. Coming to his senses, he is revolted at certain episodes he vaguely remembers. These memories are a nightmare. He trembles to think someone might have observed him. As fast as he can, he pushes these memories far inside himself. He hopes they will never see the light of day. He is under constant fear and tension. That makes for more drinking.
That's the definition of guilt, the effect guilt has on me. Remember we talked about guilt not being a feeling, but guilt is a fact. Guilt is a fact that I have unreconciled sin in my life, and therefore I get restless, irritable, and discontent. And now what takes that away quick? Drinking. Right? The exercise takes slow, the food takes slow, Netflix takes slow. But man, if I want to get rid of my denied guilt, my denied sin, I pick up a couple of drinks and I'm off to the races. I feel just fine. A couple more drinks. If you were married, man, if you had a dad like my dad, you'd drink too. You should see my family I was raised with. All the things that this thing has to do to justify me picking up.
Psychologists are inclined to agree with us. We have spent thousands of dollars for examinations. We know but few instances where we have given these doctors a fair break. We have seldom told them the whole truth, nor have we followed their advice.
Anybody ever pay out of their own pocket for a psychologist? Anybody tell them lies? Does that make any sense? I would purposely pick out through, I got this book and I'm struggling, and then what is wrong with me? I know I got to go see someone, I need a therapist, I need a psychologist, and I got this book from my insurance provider, and I'm going through, and it says, psychologist specializing in family therapy. This one specializes in addiction therapy. This one's a 12-step background. Anything with addiction, 12-step, I'm not seeing him, I'm not seeing him, I'm not seeing him, yeah. Because I want to figure out life with drinking. I don't want my drinking to stop. I want the consequences from my drinking to stop. I definitely don't want to lose cocaine in my life. I want the consequences. I want to use less cocaine. Right? Does that make sense to anyone? I know it doesn't make any sense, but talk to any addict, and when they come in, God, I'll do anything. I'll do anything to stop these consequences. All right, well, we got to stop drinking. For how long? Just for how long till I can? But I don't say that. I don't even know I'm thinking it, but I'm definitely thinking it. It's like I could sober up for a long time if I knew there was a drink coming. I can sober up for a long time if you tell me on this date it's okay to drink. And that's not what this program is about. This program is about you used the word reconciled. We will be more reconciled with ourselves. We're reconciling ourselves with ourselves, the facts about ourselves, why we drink. Most normal people think alcohol causes alcoholism. But once you get in the program and start doing this, it doesn't take very long to figure out that alcohol diagnoses alcoholism. I had alcoholic behavior and thoughts and emotions long before I picked up a drink, I was dishonest. I think when I came out of the womb, I complained about the length of time and how cold the room was. I came out complaining. Yeah. Okay.
Unwilling to be honest with these sympathetic men, we were honest with no one else. Small wonder many in the medical profession have a low opinion of alcoholics and their chance for recovery. We must be entirely honest with somebody if we are to expect to live long or happily in this world.
Now remember, he doesn't have the word sponsorship. He's trying to set up step 6, is what he's trying to do. He's trying to talk about this intimate relationship. Intimacy is what my sponsor said we're going to have. He said we're going to have intimacy, Paul. Into me see. Into me see. He said, I am going to share things with you about myself. And you must be trustworthy. You must believe in me, that you can tell me anything. You can allow me to see into you. And that was such a neat way to break down that word. And I believed he knew what he was talking about. And I believe I could tell him anything. I didn't like it when he said, give me your wife's phone number, but he did. He said, I want your wife's phone number, because if you stop calling me, I said, I'm going to call your wife. Then we went out to dinner, the 4 of us, after my fifth step. I didn't think that was a good idea. But it was great. And he's like, and we sat down and he goes, she doesn't have 3 heads. I didn't make it rough for me already at home.
Rightly and naturally, we think well before we choose the person or persons with whom to take this intimate and confidential step. Those of us belonging to a religious denomination which requires confession must, and of course, will want to go to the properly appointed authority whose duty it is to receive it. Though we have no religious connection, we may still do well to talk with someone ordained by an established religion. We often find such a person quick to see and understand our problem. Of course, we sometimes encounter people who do not understand alcoholics.
And some of those are wearing collars. Some of the priests, the pastors, the ministers, they think that we're going to pray this thing out of us. They do it. And they will, many priests did not recommend AA, they gave me ideas that work for hard drinkers. I know they work for hard drinkers. But in many times when I'm sitting today with priests, we talk about the best thing. My friend at home, he said this beautiful thing. He's sitting with a priest he knows very well. And the priest says to my friend Kevin, he says, my job, Kevin, is I put a net under my sanctuary. And my job is to make sure that net holds. And when somebody falls in the net, my job is to go get them and bring them up. Isn't that beautiful? You know what Kevin said? Father, my job is I get under the net and I get the ones that fall through the net and I get them back to you. And the priest had the courage in the confession to say to me, don't come back here anymore. We have no idea what to do with you. Go to AA and do whatever they tell. Do whatever they tell you what to do. And I was so mad when I left that confessional. I wanted anything but AA. I just hated AA. And I wanted to call the bishop and say, you got a rogue priest giving advice. And that's not what he's supposed to do. You see what I'm doing? I'm 2 days off a binge, loaded with guilt. I want to be relieved of my guilt. And the way the confession is working for me, the way I'm using it, is I go and I confess my adultery or I confess my thievery. So I confess that I'm a thief. And when I leave there, I am a forgiven thief. I am going to steal again. He is not, in the confessional, I am not getting tools to prevent me from stealing again. A thief steals. And I'm not reconciled, but I'm a forgiven thief. That's all. And I'll see you next week, Father, with a whole nother list of things I've stolen. It doesn't, the priest, and so it says here to go, and later on in 11, on step 11, it's going to say, be quick to see where religious people are right. The problem that I had, what I was doing with my Catholicism is, I was using it instead of AA. I didn't want anything to do with the steps. I had done AA. AA doesn't work. You didn't have to sit with me very long to feel my resentment towards AA. And it was based upon old ideas and prejudice. And that's where this stuff here, like, I would never send today a sponsee to a cleric of any type, a priest or a pastor, to do their fifth step. I think it's unfair to do to the clergy. They're busy. They don't want to sit. A fifth step takes about 3 hours. Who laughed at that? Yeah.
I went to a priest and I read my entire confession, and then when I was done, he goes, honey, go to AA.
Go to AA. Yeah, go to AA. Listen, but I'll sit and I'll know what religion they are, my sponsees. I always know what they were raised. And if in Catholicism, I know pretty well. And I'll say, these 4 things you're going to go into confession with. These 3 things that happened, I want you to go to confession. I want you to go to absolution. I want you to take that priest. I want you to make sure you tell the priest that you're a recovered alcoholic, or you're in the program, or make sure you tell him you're an alcoholic so he knows what he's doing. I went to a priest. My confessions always start with the same. I want to give gratitude. My sober date is this. I've been this long without a drink or a drug, and for that I'm grateful to God. All my confessions start out like that. So the priest knows I'm a drug addict and alcoholic who's sober. And I had one young priest, he goes, hey, whoa. This isn't one of those fifth step things, is it? Because it was a regular Saturday and there's a line out there. I said, no, Padre, you're okay there. We're not doing one of those. I said, but these are a couple, because he knew he had a line out there and he knew, boy, I ain't sitting with these guys for, how many guys have you heard about 10-hour fifth steps or 3-day fifth steps? Or why? What are they talking about? About 3 to 4 hours, I think, is a good length. Some fifth steps go a little bit longer. They might take a couple days. I can't sit much longer than 4 hours with a guy and stay focused on what we're doing. So maybe we got to go a second day. If we aren't into the fear of the sex inventory, we're still on resentments 3 hours into it, I'll probably stop it and say, tell them it's a good start. Let's meet again tomorrow for another couple hours. That's just my thought, but I don't get 10-hour. I said with Friday night we started, on Sunday night I was done. I was like, and I'm not knocking that. It's like, I don't know, I got better things to do over the weekend than hear your fifth step. They're pretty simple. Fifth steps are pretty simple. This is Sandy Beach said, there's only 2 kinds of men I do fifth steps with. He said, men that have had sex with cows and men that haven't had sex with cows. He goes, that's about the only difference. That was Sandy Beach saying that, so he must be okay. Okay? You know where we are? You okay after that imagery? I'm sorry. Man wants to know more about the sex with cows.
If we cannot or would rather not do this, we search our acquaintance for a closed-mouthed, understanding friend. Perhaps our doctor or psychologist will be the person. It may be one of our own family, but we cannot disclose anything to our wives or our parents which will hurt them and make them unhappy. We have no right to save our own skin at another person's expense. Such parts of our story we tell to someone who will understand, yet be unaffected. The rule is we must be hard on ourselves, but always considerate of others. Notwithstanding the great necessity for discussing ourselves with someone, it may be one is so situated that there is no suitable person available. If that is so, this step may be postponed only, however, if we hold ourselves in complete readiness to go through with it at the first opportunity. We say this because we are very anxious that we talk to the right person. It is important that he be able to keep a confidence, that he fully understand and approve what we are driving at, that he will not try to change our plan. But we must not use this as a mere excuse to postpone.
And aren't we blessed today that we have sponsorship now, actually a form or some sort of guide to sponsorship? I can't ever imagine that one of my sponsees wouldn't do his fifth step with me. I'd be shocked, and I don't know why I wouldn't do my fifth step with my sponsor. It's this great relationship that has developed out of this book and out of the 12 and 12. That's very, very beautiful. I would say that if I couldn't do my fifth step with my sponsor, I should probably get a different sponsor. Yeah, I probably got the wrong sponsor. If I cannot enter intimacy with my sponsor and allow him to see every part of me, then I probably got the wrong sponsor.
When we decide who is to hear our story, we waste no time. We have a written inventory and we are prepared for a long talk. We explain to our partner what we are about to do and why we have to do it. He should realize that we are engaged upon a life and death errand. Most people approached in this way will be glad to help. They will be honored by our confidence.
So here's what he's talking about, long talk. It's on page 63. Here's Dr. Bob here in a fifth step. Dr. Bob led me through all these steps. At the moral inventory, the fifth step, he brought up several of my bad personality traits, character defects, such as selfishness, conceit, jealousy, carelessness, intolerance, ill temper, sarcasm, and resentments. We went over these at great length. And then he finally asked me if I wanted these defects of character to be removed. That's step 6 and 7. When I said yes, we both knelt at his desk and prayed, each of us asking to have these defects taken away. In an afternoon, Bob took a guy through the whole steps. Now, this guy we're talking about on page 263, he wasn't new to AA. It wasn't his first day. They put him in the hospital. He was there for a few weeks. Guys kept talking to him. He started hanging out with the group. He made his steps 1, 2, and 3, joined the group. So he's probably about 6, 7 weeks sober. when Bob sat down and did his fifth step. So, and that was probably a long time to wait, but he was going back to Chicago. He's about to leave, so Bob, in an afternoon, took him through the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And then was the 6 tenets of the Oxford group. All right, here we're going to get the fifth step promises. We're going to get 8 promises, and I want you to think about them as statements. And we talked earlier when we first started this process that in the big book we're going to take statements and we're going to turn them into questions. So when I work with a sponsee, I turn this paragraph, we pocket our pride. Everybody see what paragraph I'm on? And this is the way I read it to them. I said, we pocket our pride, going to it, illuminating every twist of character, every dark cranny of the past. Okay, so I've heard his fifth step. Now I asked that gentleman, or my sponsee, I said, once we have taken the step withholding nothing, are you delighted? Question number 1. Can you look the world in the eyes? 2. This is 3. Can you be alone at perfect peace and ease? 4. Are your fears falling from you? You see where I am? Anybody lost? Okay, we're in the paragraph, we pocket our pride. I'm changing the words a little bit. I'm taking statements and I'm turning them into questions. We pocket, I'll read it again. We pocket our pride, go to it, illuminating every twist of character, every dark cranny of the past. Once we have taken the step, withholding nothing, are you delighted? See, it says we are delighted. Are you delighted? 2, we can look the world in the eyes. Are you looking the world in the eyes? Are your eyes up? That was a big one for me. Man, I knew exactly what everybody's shoes were all the time. Man, I was like this, dodging. Huh? Are you delighted? We are delighted, it says. We can look the world in the eyes. We can be alone at perfect peace and ease. Can you be alone at perfect peace and ease? Are our fears fall from us? Are your fears starting to fall from you? Huh? We begin to feel the nearness of our Creator. Do you feel the nearness of a Creator? We may have had certain spiritual beliefs, but now we begin to have spiritual experience. Give me some of your spiritual experiences so far. I've known you for 7 weeks, 7 weeks now. I bet I've noticed a few spiritual experiences. The feeling that the drink problem has disappeared will often come strongly. This is a problem. If that has happened to you in this step, after you're doing your fifth step, you are less likely to go out and make amends. You're less likely to do the seventh step. If you came here, and I came here to solve my drink problem, guess what's gone? My drink problem. I haven't had 7 weeks without a drink in years. This is amazing. Oh yeah? You're going to drink again if you think this is it. If this was it, we'd have a 5-step program. So this one here is a tricky one. And I'm grateful because guess what, how I answered that question? Nope. I am thirsty, man. I'm super thirsty. I get one more letter from the IRS, I might just go out and drink. And he always, my sponsor would say to me, you look like you want to get drunk. He never asked me, he never said, you look like you want to drink. You look like you want to get drunk. Because he knows Bill's story. 2 bottles of gin and oblivion. Yeah, one more letter from the IRS, I just might go have oblivion. If she doesn't forgive me soon, if I don't get back up in that bed, I am sick of this couch. Then when she said, yeah, you want to come up to the bed, I thought, this couch isn't all that bad. She plotting my death up there. I'm watching her eat first, when she made a dinner. She eating that. Then maybe they'll sit at a different seat at the table. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. I'm still worried about Tom. We still haven't seen Tom, so. All right. We feel we are on the broad highway walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe. Isn't that beautiful imagery? Yeah. You know those little boys, they hold my hand all the time? They reach out, hold my hand when I'm driving. They want to hold my hand, right? Those babies, they want to hold your little baby. If you put your finger up, what does he do? He grabs I want to hold. How about that? Wouldn't you love to hold God's hand and walk through? Now we're going to get some time frame here. So we've done the 5th step. I've taken a man through it. In my own, I have admitted these things about me, the things I've admitted. Big one for me is I'm inconsiderate. I don't think of anyone. I'm self-seeking. Even when I'm kind, I'm judgmental. I lack forgiveness. I think I'm the most forgiving person. Oh my God. I am so unforgiving. I have a scorecard of everyone. All these things were revealed. In my fears, what I'm afraid of. And in the relationship inventory, the sex inventory. All right, so I admit this stuff. I admit this is who I am. All my problems are of my own making. Read the last paragraph on page 103. Our bottles We're a symptom. It's the best news this book has. It comes at the end of the steps. Our problems were of our own making. So I admit to this man. All right, now he tells me to do this. He says, returning home, we find a place where we can be quiet for 1 hour. How about that? I've already started a little, he's got me a little meditation, but not much. But now I'm going to sit and meditate for an hour, carefully reviewing what we have done. Those are those 8 questions we're going to review. But he's going to ask us to do something else. We thank God from the bottom of our heart that we know him better. Taking this book down from our shelf, we return to the page 60, which contains the 12 steps, 59 and 60. Careful reading the first 5 proposals, the first 5 steps. All right, we ask if we omitted anything, for we're building an arch through which we shall walk a free man. Isn't this beautiful? An arch. Free man at last. Is our work solid so far? Are the stones properly in place? Have we skimped on the cement put into the foundation? Have we tried to make mortar without sand? Anybody here a concrete guy? Any concrete guys here? He's got beautiful imagery here. What happens to concrete with the wrong sand or no sand? What is it? And what does it do? It won't even sit in place, right? It just goes everywhere, and is it worth anything?
No.
It's useless. So, what is the sand that is in my program? So I talked earlier about, what these easier methods were. So what's the sand in my program? Start to think about this stuff. Don't be afraid to do a little journaling. We're going to talk more about journaling in weeks to come. But, here's what the sand is that I need to make my mortar. Honesty, openness, willingness, lack of contempt. Remove my contempt. I need a sponsor. I need sponsees in my. Now, I'm convinced at this point, when I'm working with I'm 7 weeks sober, thinking sponsees are the key, man. I figured out why Jeff was sober. He frickin' does this all the time. I think he's doing it just with me. Now I've met 3. Oh, Jeff's my sponsor too. Oh, Jeff's my. Then we start telling things when Jeff isn't. When Jeff smokes a cigar, does he do this? And we're laughing, we're making fun. Until Jeff comes in the room, then we're like, there he is, man. Went up to his cabin. He invited me up to his cabin. I thought, geez, that sounds horrible. He had a cabin in Wisconsin. It's like a 4-hour drive, and I think, well, he's got a cabin, and I hadn't done my 5th step yet. And I said, oh, this will probably be deep. He wants to go with me and be up there. So I said, yeah, okay, I'll go. I got good. Here's the directions. Be up here at this time. I go, there's like 9 guys there, and they're all his sponsees. And I thought, how cool would this be? How cool would this be? And it was, the moment for me was I'm sitting out. I think I'm smoking a cigarette at the time. I'm sneaking cigarettes still. But I'm having coffee and it's quiet, and this dude comes up, another that I don't know very well, and we have a conversation for an hour and a half that's just nothing but out of this world. I still remember the conversation, what we talked about. It was like, God, give me more of this. And it was nothing to do with drinking and drugging. It wasn't. It was about what God is doing in our life. Can you believe we're here on a weekend? That this is what we spend our time with this old. Can you believe it? And we're having these 8 things are coming true. And he was much farther. He had sponsees, and he was encouraging me, and it's going to be okay. And his wife didn't come back. His wife left him. His kids left him, and he was okay. And I was like, I think at that weekend I started being okay with maybe my marriage is over. It doesn't have to be, but it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. So I tell my guys to go home for the hour. And then I have them call me. I say, how did you answer the 8 questions? And most of them know that they better not have all 8 yeses. There better be some no's in there. I know I'm still having trouble with my fear. I still don't feel the nearness of my Creator. Most of them feel the nearness of the Creator. The ones that they usually say no to is, we are delighted. I'm not really delighted. Well, I got to be honest with you. My financial problems are horrible. I don't get. Look the world in the eye, be alone at perfect peace. That's another one guys have a real hard time with. Men have a real hard time, especially if they've been kicked out of their house, they're away from their family. I don't like the apartment I got. I don't like the hotel I'm in. I want to go back home. It's my house. She's kicked me out of my house. We love it when a guy says, I lost my house in the marriage. I lost my house, I lost my wife. We say, they're not lost. They're right there. They're in the house that you own. That's your wife in there. They're not lost. They just want nothing to do with you. And maybe they come back, maybe they don't come back, but those are the experiences that I started to have. So I tell them to call me after the hour. If they say yes, then guess what we do? Over the phone, steps 6 and 7. And so that's what we're going to do tonight. And the experience I had with this man is he said, we were talking about 6 and 7, getting one paragraph. I was talking about what we do here. Normally when I met with sponsees, we would read the 12 and 12. We read 6 and 7. Now the 12 and 12, the 6 and 7 is very articulate, very eloquent about taking the 7 deadly sins. And he uses the word sin a lot in the 12 and 12. And because that, of course, is, when I get down to it, sin is any thought or action that separates me from God. So it's not a theological term. Sin is what's going on up here. Would God have me be thinking this? Would God have me live in fear? Would God have me judging my grandchildren? Would God have me judging my daughter-in-law on how she's raising my grandchildren? Fair enough, you grandparents know what I'm talking about. Or would he have me say, what would you have me be? You follow? These are the things. That's a sin. I'm judging others. I'm unforgiving. Or what are my actions? Would God really have me going to this place if I'm sober? Would God really have me behaving like this at my work if I'm sober? Do I look sober? So these are the sins that I'm trying to reconcile. And so if I say, now the fellow will call me, okay, if we can say answer to our satisfaction, we then look at step 6. We have emphasized willingness as being indispensable. Are we now ready to let God remove from us all the things which we have admitted are objectionable? So circle that word admitted. Up to this point, we have been admitting. The first step, I admit that I'm powerless over alcohol. I admit that when I'm dry, that I'm still alcoholic and I drink again. And the second step, I admit that no human aid can relieve. No book, no meeting, no sponsor, no steps, no medicine, no treatment center, no detox, no friend, no priest, no church, no job, no girl, no guy. No human aid can relieve me of my alcoholism. Step 6. Step 2, I admit that. Step 3, I admit that I'm willing to go to any length. I'm willing to jump off the log. I'm the frog on the log. I am willing. I'll do anything. Step 4, I admit these are the things. What my fault. I'm selfish, self-centered, self-seeking, driven by ego. I need approval so bad. I desire approval. I'm a chameleon. I'll be whatever this person needs for me to be approved. That's what I've been admitting. Guess what we're going to do in step 6 and 7? We're going to start confessing, I don't want to be this way anymore. It's going to take us from the word admittance to saying, I want to be different. I confess. We have emphasized willingness as indispensable. We're now ready to let God remove from us all the things which we have admitted are objectionable, all my sin. Can he now take them all, every one? If we still cling to something, we will not let go. We ask God to help us be willing, not to remove it, but God, I'm still hanging on to my desire for money. I'm still hanging on for my desire to whatever, to have my children, to be judgmental of my children, whatever the sins are, this inconsiderate. I think of myself way too much. Early on, it's better, but I still think of myself way too much. These are the things I'm working on. It's much different than the first couple of years. The first couple of years, if you think about the 7 deadly sins, pride, greed, lust, gluttony, sloth, wrath, which is anger. Help me out, Lou, I'm running out of sins.
Envy.
Thank you, envy. Is that 7, I think? Are we at 7?
7.
That's fine for me. That's enough. But if you look at it, and that's why I think the 12 and 12 is so direct and so beautiful in writing about these sins that I'm in and how they make me restless, irritable, discontent, disconnected from step 2. My sin prevents me from living in step 2, which is a surrender to God. And that's why the third step, God, I offer myself to thee. It's quite beautiful. So now when I get willing, okay, these are the things. So I'm going to hand this out. You can pass this around. This gives you kind of ideas of, it's a checklist of flaws and assets. So it's the contrary behavior, if you will. For instance, on here, compulsiveness, the contrary behavior is to be free of my obsession. Here's one, dirty, poor hygiene. As a sin? Yeah, dirty, poor hygiene. What's the contrary behavior? What it says here, clean. That's the word, clean. Yeah, get clean. But gives you some ideas. So go through it and keep this on your 6 and 7. Should pass it out. I got one for you too, man. But that is what we're talking about in steps 6 and 7. And all of these, if you really take these to meditation, what you'll find is one of the 7 deadly sins. When we read how it works, it says, do not be discouraged. And I said, discouragement is a sin. Remorse is a sin. Regret is a sin. That's been maybe my, in confession, that's probably been my most confessed sin, is my sin of remorse. I have been having visions or sights of places I used to go 20 years ago when I was in my addiction. And I can't believe it. I just can't believe it in the things. So I take it to a priest and he tells me that that is a sin. Because what you're saying is, your sin is so deep, what you did is so bad, it cannot be forgiven. And it's the sin of pride. And he says, let it go. He says, it's just a reminder, Paul, of where you've been. And now you're here. And what the opposite of God, whatever you want to call the evil force out there, he's just trying to lure me in a little bit. Always trying to lure us, particularly if we're on the right path. And that's, I love it when a priest says, you are on the right path, man, because you're making someone mad and he's starting to get to you. And you say, okay, all right, it feels good, you know. But what am I doing? I'm talking about it with somebody. I'm sharing with them what's going on up here. Man, I can't, Father, this thing has been getting me. I can't believe it. I don't tell them specifics, but I just say, why am I reliving these? I don't do them anymore. And that's the sin of pride. That's what I'm confessing, because I'm so filled with pride. So we're going to get a prayer now as we slide into step 7. Are you guys okay? What do you guys, so the fellow, I don't even think I explained it. So the fellow says to me, the reason why 6 and 7 get 2 paragraphs in the big book is because the entire book is 6 and 7. Maybe, in the way he illustrated it, he says, think of step 1. When you first walk into a meeting for the first time, you have worked on a character defect. And the character defect is pride. When I walk into it, watch guys who come in, and it's the very first meeting ever. Watch how hard it is. They want to sit by the door. Their pride tells them just to get out. He says, you've been working on pride since step 1. You've been working on your ego. You've been working on your inconsiderate behavior. You've been working on 6 and 7 the entire time, from the minute you walk, from the minute you wake up hungover and say, this has got to stop. I'm working on a character defect. The character defect that I'm going to be self-sufficient. Remember Roland Hazard? Not Roland Hazard. Hank Parkhurst. What the doctor said here before, a man brimming with self-reliance. We don't have a self-reliance program. We have a God-reliance program. Why is he brimming with self-reliance? I work on this, on my selfishness, my self-centeredness, the minute I walk in, the minute Jeff comes up to me and I stop and give him my phone number, it's an act of humility. Because I don't say to Jeff, I got it all worked out. I say to Jeff, he says, I'm going to be your temporary sponsor. And I said, I have a sponsor. And Jeff says, your sponsor sucks. I don't defend. I know my sponsor sucks. That's why I like my sponsor. He said, call me if you ever feel like drinking. That was sponsorship to this fellow. Call me if you ever feel like drinking. I always feel like drinking. It's like back then, you got charged for minutes on your cell phone. I couldn't afford to call you. I'd have no money for drinking if I were calling you. Can you imagine those phone calls? Remember you used to get the bill and it'd have how long, and your wife would look at that? Maybe not. But she'd look at, who's this? We're talking 20 minutes to this person. It's like, don't look at the bills. So maybe 6 and 7 is the whole program. Maybe it is my character defects. Maybe it is what the turnarounds, my mistakes. Maybe it is my inconsideration, why I'm drinking. Maybe it is my judgmental, my unforgiveness. Maybe that's why I'm restless, irritable, and discontent. All these opinions I have. You know, I love my opinions, and I love to share them with you. And it's like, and then Google's like one of the worst things ever for, like, hey, let's Google it. Hey, let's not. These are my stats. So let's slide into step 7. And we're going to get this beautiful, beautiful prayer. Life-changing prayer. How did I end up on fears? I ended up back here. So, anybody catch that 6 and 7 are on page 76? Yeah. Isn't that kind of a cool little irony? And then 8 and 9, yeah. What about 8 and 9? Okay, when we're ready. What does that mean, when we're ready, when I'm willing? We say something like this, my Creator, I'm now willing to show all of me, good and bad. I do not know what's good and bad. Do you know, Trey, what's good and bad about you? Probably not. If you're like me. I know you well enough, you have no clue. I have no clue what's good and bad. Yeah. How many times have you thought, this will be really good if I get it, you get it? It's like, God, I wish, I have a house on the market, by the way, right now. This thing is perfect. And it's like, God, I can't wait for someone to buy it. What happened to that? You know, good and bad. But what he's talking about is the parts of me, the parts of this and the parts of this, my spirit and my thinking. You can have all of me. Remember when we read, it said, we work out our problems in the spirit. Our spiritual malady is overcome. We straighten out physically and mentally. When our spiritual problems are straightened out, we straighten out physically and mentally in that order. How many times do I try to get the job, get the girl, get the whatever, and then I'll work on the religion? But that's not what this is saying. God, I'm now willing to have all of me good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character. And I'd like to say, sin. Please, God, remove from me all my sin, which stands in the way. No, I'm a little bit lost. Okay. Remove all my character defects, which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and to my fellows. Now I get my marching orders. Grant me strength as I go from here to do your bidding. And then we get the word we haven't had yet. What's the word?
Amen.
Hasn't been in our third step prayer, our fear prayer, our sex prayers, our resentment prayers. We haven't seen amen. Because we've been in one, hopefully, if you're doing this with a sponsor, you've been in one prayer the whole time. And the prayer is to reveal myself to me. I love the word reconcile. Steps 4 and 5, I reconcile myself with myself. 6 and 7, I reconcile myself with God. And I think this is the step that is the confession if you're Catholic or of different, I think pretty much all, you guys can help me out, all religions have a form of confession. Fair enough? Is there anybody here part of a religion that doesn't do confession? So does somebody, I know Catholicism, what other religions are in this room? Is there anybody who can share what a confession is like in a different religion? Anybody? Any Lutherans here? Any, go ahead.
The confession if you're Lutheran?
Yeah.
I personally haven't done any, but I believe it's just like a little bit more, isn't it just like you don't really want to say the bad thing?
I don't know. Anybody know? Anybody got any tips for us? All right, well. Behave, yeah. Yeah, Paul.
I belong to a non-denominational church, and I asked the pastor there one day, I said, why don't you people hear confession? And he said, because the Catholics hear.
Because the Catholics, yeah, that's good. That's good.
Catholics here.
Yeah. The man died and he got up to St. Peter. And St. Peter said, in the book it says, my father has built many rooms for you, so I'm going to give you a little tour and you can decide where you want to stay. And he went into the first room and he said, these are the Baptists. They didn't drink and dance much, and they're all drinking and dancing and having a great time. He says, boy, when they got up here, they couldn't wait. And they're just having a grand old time, and if you want to come in this room, you can. And he said, in the next room, these are the Muslims, and they pray 5 times, I think it's 5 times a day, is that right? He says, I love that so much on earth, they still do it up here. And he went in the room and they're praying. He says, if you want to come in here, there's a beautiful group of people, he says. Now the next group, we have a window. You can look in, but we can't go in. He said, but you can look in there and see, but we can't go in. And he said, why can't I go in? He says, well, that's the Catholics. They think they're the only ones up here. Yeah, we're tough on ourselves, but I think it's, well, yeah, but you know what Anthony DeMello said about it? Anthony DeMello was a Jesuit priest. He said, if I say I am Catholic, it's asinine. 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 He said, you shouldn't be saying it, Paul. DeMello was this, DeMello wrote some beautiful books. The one book that I like to give to men is the book called Awareness. And DeMello says in that book, that's where he says, if I say I'm Catholic, it's asinine because what I've said is, no, I'm open to no other religions. And then I don't have much belief in my Catholicism. When I read that, I thought, I never thought of it that way. So what I say is I practice my spiritual tenets, my spiritual beliefs and tenets through the practice of the Catholic faith. And I listen to everything. Like I do these Native American prayers in the morning. I got these, it's called daily ponderables. Anybody get daily ponderables? How cool is that? And they give you a number of prayers. But I'm particularly drawn to the Native American prayer kind of down towards the bottom. Now, in the old days, the priest might say, hey, that's sacrilegious, or there's you do with our prayers, and that's it. They don't do that today. I've never been told. I think, why wouldn't we be open to any type of these, whatever gets me closer to God? And if my Catholicism, I have such a strong belief, I'm not threatened by looking at the practice of, say, Muslim or Buddhists or Lutherans. I'm not sure about you Lutherans. I don't get the Lutherans, but anyway, you get what I'm saying. Why wouldn't I? I love to sit with sponsees as they tell me what they do, and it's like, I get that, man. That's good. With one guy today, he told me that, and I told him, I said, a little weird. That's a little weird. I think that's a little. What he was doing was a little selfish. Well, it was a lot selfish. It was a meditation on self, and I don't know, man. My whole problem is I meditate on myself way too much. I meditate on my condition in my life. So take this sheet home. These are defects of character. They give us we don't renounce them. I don't renounce my anger. I try to find the contrary behavior. Contrary behavior to anger is forgiveness. Contrary behavior to depression is depression a sin? I'm not talking about the medical form. I know there's clinical depression. I get it. Most people I run into that are on the meds do not have clinical depression. We can get them. They have depression because their life sucks. What's the contrary behavior to depression? Do you know what it is? Huh? No, not gratitude. No.
Helping others. Get out of yourself.
It's always, it says it all throughout the book.
Yeah.
Service. You're depressed? What did Bill Wilson do? 18 months sober, found himself in a bitter morass of self-pitying depression. What did he do? I go back to my old hospital. He saw Silkworth and said, you got a new drunk I can talk to? And he said, and what does he say in his story? I am uplifted when I leave there. We never hear what happened to the drunk, but we know what happened to Bill, and that is true in my life. Man, when I get depressed, and I get depressed today, you better believe it. I can sit and wallow. I spend times with newcomers. I get in my life, I'm around a lot of newcomers every day. And man, it feels good. And I love it. I love it. Service is the key. Sponsorship is foundation, okay? So next week we're going to be on step 8 and 9. How about that for speed, huh? We're not messing around. Yeah, let's get sober now. Yeah, through in 1 hour. Thank you, Paul. Anybody got any other questions? Any comments? Yeah. Yeah, but did you see what the book said about that? We find a self-appraisal insufficient. If I go straight to God with my sin, it's so different when another man is there. It's so different. And quite frankly, when I hear a fifth step, it is a form of confession. I don't have absolution under the guys. I can't give that. But when a man starts, I love it when a guy we're all done, and he turns and he's got 3 little names. What are those 3 names? Well, I don't really want to tell you about these. And my mind goes, oh shit, I'm here for another 2 hours. That's an insult, but all right, what's the first name? Well, that's my wife's, my mom's first husband after she left my dad. Oh my God. And you didn't think your mom's divorced? It's like, here we go again. But it's beautiful. Then you watch. Sit with men who cry. We love crying. I love crying. Weeping.
Makes room for joy.
It leaves room for joy. Yeah, you know what the difference is between crying and weeping? Crying is when I cry over my despair. I used to hysterically cry. Sometimes I'd have to pull the car over. I once was driving on 169. I looked over. It was 6 in the morning. I hadn't been to bed since I don't know when. And I saw a guy in a tie and a jacket, and he had 2 little kids. He was clearly dropping off at daycare. And I had to pull over. I was hysterically crying at the despair of my life. Weeping is what happens when my eyes just start watering out of my gratitude. Like, can you believe I'm driving these kids here at 6 in the morning? And I got a life, second to none. And that's the difference between crying and weeping. And my friend once told me, you're a weeper. I said, yeah. He said, it's cool, isn't it? I said, it's cool. You turn on just the right song, I'll sit and weep with you, baby. How good is that? Yeah. I've been watching The Chosen. I got some sponsors watching The Chosen. And last night I was watching season 3 because that's where he's at. And baby, I was weeping. I was like, I'm chilled right now. But I love it. I love it. So, yeah, if you haven't watched The Chosen, you can watch The Chosen. Yeah, have a box of tissue. And I highly recommend you watch The Chosen alone. Because all you need is somebody there telling you how it's all incorrect. Stop it. All right, shall we close? You guys, now tonight we're going to close with the 3rd step prayer and the 7th step prayer. So the two flow into beautiful, and we'll leave this up, and we'll finish with the word amen tonight. You know what the word amen means? Let it be. So it is. Something like that. So it is. So be it.